So to begin our coverage over the Dawn of X, or to continue our coverage over the Dawn of X, we actually pick up with Fallen Angels number 4. Now, with Fallen Angels number 4, we actually pick up in the past with the original Psylocke Kawanin. Now remember, in the late 80s and the early 90s of Marvel Comics, Kawanin was our original Psylocke. But in the late 90s and the most of the 2000s, Marvel had replaced her with Betty Braddock. They had switched bodies. And so when they switched bodies in the late 90s and the early 2000s, most Marvel fans had Betty Braddock in the body of Kawanin and using the name Psylocke. But now we have the original Psylocke back, Kawanin. Now, we do pick up in the past, and when we do see one of her masters is right now trying to teach her a lesson about peace, because apparently there was a meeting between two clans, but apparently some random man tried to bring peace between those two men. Of course, the way he did that brought no honor to himself and the clans. And so the clans gave this man one of the deadliest flowers on the island. And so, of course, he is now dying. And so her master is telling her, listen, be careful when you're trying to find peace, because when you find peace, that is where death usually is at. So be careful when you're trying to do something in the way of peace. Now, we do pick up with Psylocke in X-23 in the present day, because remember, at the end of our last Fallen Angels book, these two characters plus Cable were attacking one of the bases that belonged to the new character known as Apoth. And of course, once they were able to shut down that base, they did find out a bunch of children were kidnapped and taken to a nearby village. Now, Cable was also taken hostage, but he's being kept somewhere else. And so right now you have X-23 and Psylocke trying to save the kids first before they go and try to save Cable. Now, of course, this is reminding us that when it comes to Fallen Angels, the main team right now is Psylocke, Cable, and X-23. Now, speaking of Cable, we actually do pick up with Cable, who was being held hostage at the very end of our last video, and he's still being held hostage. Now, he's not being held hostage by Apoth, the main bad guy of this series. Matter of fact, this is just a servant of Apoth. But you do have Apoth say that he will let Cable go, but he is going to send Cable with a message back to Psylocke. Now, you do have this servant say that with the mutants leaving the humans behind to make their own nation, it left a hole in the universe. Not a literal hole, but a vacuum that has to be sealed up. And so with that, you have this servant say that with the mutants and the humans no longer being together, that made room for something else. And that something else is going to be technology. Technology is going to rise up and take that place between the mutants and the humans. And sooner or later, they could have two things happen. One, humans, technology, and mutants all come together and work together or go against war, or technology could basically take over the world completely and getting rid of both humans and mutants. And that right there does tie perfectly into the House of X and Power of X storyline that we covered. Because remember, in those storylines right there, in the far distant future, humans were basically no longer around. They had one fused with machines, or machines have completely taken over. And so with that, it seems this could be the very beginning of that path where machines begin to take over the world. But either way, this servant of Apoth is going to send Cable back to Psylocke with a message, and hoping that message will be very clear to Psylocke. Now, getting back over to X-23 and Psylocke, we do see them right now arriving in the village. And when they do arrive in the village, of course, they find the children that they were looking for. The problem is, though, the children are now standing in the middle of the whole village and they're not moving. And that is the moment you have Psylocke tell us that she knows they're being watched. And so she says, "Talk to me because I know you're watching me." And that is the moment the kids begin to to speak. Now, it's not them actually speaking. It is Apoth using the kids' minds and bodies to have a conversation with Psylocke. Now, of course, once this conversation begins, that is the moment you have Psylocke ask, "What do you want with me, my friends, and also these children?" And that is the moment you have Apoth again using the bodies of the kids to have this conversation and say, "Come here, touch my hand. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to harm you, but I want to show you something. I want to show you how you gave me life." And this is kind of us getting the origin of Apoth right here at this moment, kind of. Now, I'm going to try my best to explain the origin of Apoth because honestly, it is a tad bit confusing, but this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. But getting into the origin of Apoth, when it comes to Apoth, he is a god. In his mindset, he is a god. He is the God of the Bible. He's the one who helped Noah. He's the father of Jesus. He's all of that. Now, what he says next is that apparently he was created by the men that Psylocke had saved, because throughout time, Psylocke were sent on different missions to kill people, and some of those people were not killed, and those people were calling out, praying to a god to protect them from Psylocke, and most of those people were saved and they were not killed by Psylocke. But with those people constantly calling out for a god, it led to the creation of Apoth. And apparently Apoth was trapped in a dark room, but he found his way out, and his way out was technology. And with him finding a way out through technology, he gave himself a way to communicate with his people, the people that had been praying for him and needed his help. And so with that, he says he's trying to evolve the world to make the world better. But the reason why he is so connected to Psylocke is because every single person she had saved, or every single person she did not kill, when the hand asked her to kill someone, they had prayed for a god, and that led into his creation. And so he looks at Psylocke as his mother. And as a god, he wants a mother, but at the same time, he wants to make sure that she knows what is his next plan. His next plan is to evolve the world, use technology to make the world better. And so that is the moment he reveals himself to her as some kind of purple colored god standing right in front of her. But of course, when he does that, only she can see him, no one else can. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But I do hope you enjoyed today's comic book video. Later, guys.